Good evening. It's 6 o'clock, and we welcome everyone to our City Council Mayor Study Session. Our agenda, hopefully everyone's had a chance to look it over as far as council members and all others that have it. We want to start out tonight with public comments, and Lisa, you probably have a list, correct?
I do. I have one person, Joanne Vassell. Ms. Vassell? Yes. It's a study session, so your comments can be about anything that affects the city. We'll have 3 minutes. Timer will start when you do.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joanne Vassell. I just wanted to make comment about the sidewalk grant for Deary Street. I used to live on Deary Street, actually 2 houses up from Madison Street. It's very busy there. There's a lot of car traffic. And when I saw that the grant funds had been approved for Deary, I was a little concerned about the area of part of Deary that I saw that was going to be getting sidewalk improvements, because that part of Deary, while the sidewalks do need repair, I'm 100% with that. Those sidewalks already exist. And then you have, once you cross over Madison Street, there's absolutely no sidewalks. So people are having to walk on the very side of the road. When it rains, it's all muddy and gravelly. People drive very, very quickly. It's not safe. I had a small child in a stroller when we lived there. We lived there for 5 years. And every time I had to take them to the doctor or go to the grocery store or take them to their babysitter, you don't know. People are rushing up and down that road. So value in replacing the sidewalk that already exists. I do just want you to think about the fact that there's areas of this town that could use the sidewalk money, and that it would be a great improvement to that neighborhood as far as how the neighborhood looks, how people treat the neighborhood. There'd probably be less trash all along the side of the road. And those types of improvements can really boost the morale for neighborhoods within the city. So I just wanted to let you guys know how I feel about that.
Thank you so much for your comments. Appreciate it. We do have, I think, grants for Madison Street, put sidewalks, work on sidewalks there, and then we have the grant for Deary Street too. Any other public comments, Lisa?
No, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor, court day. Sorry about that.
Okay. The staff reports, we'll start with our city manager's update. Please, Scott Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. We had an exceptional visit to Birmingham, Alabama for the Retail Academy under Retail Strategies. And on down in your agenda is another great grant opportunity that Retail Strategies is working with the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development to focus on helping our small businesses. And there'll be a lot more information coming out on the various targets, retail leakage. We have just a volume of information to go through. The local grant from the Tourism Fund is now available online in a fillable format, and the guidelines that you all approved, that the City Council approved, require 60 days advance, and it'll always be presented to the City Council prior to any approval. Last thing I want to touch on briefly, y'all have been made aware of the HVA system going out at the swimming pool. Our director and his staff have been working diligently with purchasing and others. And now, instead of the 7 to 9 week turnaround, it's now beginning to look more like a 2 or 3 week turnaround once council approves it. And also, they're working very well with P partners on insurance to help offset the cost. Mayor, that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our next report will come from our treasurer, Ms. Parker. Okay.
Thank you. I know you don't want to hear about every debit and credit and deposit and check we've written, but I thought we'd just have a quick speed round maybe. I handed this out tonight. Stop me at any point if you have a question and I'll try to come up with an answer. The first page is just a summary of kind of where we started the year. We have one column for fund balance and another column for cash balance. And it shows that we, at the end, this is unaudited. Now, our audit is nearly finalized for this year, so you'll be getting real numbers in probably a month. But unaudited, we ended last June with a fund balance of 22 million. If you take off the 6.5 million that we were kind of holding back for the flood pumps and so forth, it was the net 16 million. On the cash balance, we ended the year with about 21 million. If you take that same 6.5 off, we ended with about 14.7 cash. This is the general fund. So that's the first sheet. The second sheet is a summary of sales tax collections last year, fiscal year 23. The top section is our local option sales tax. The bottom is the state sales tax. We had I was going to say monster year, but that could go either way, good or bad, but it was a very good year. Local option overall was up 15.33%, state sales tax up 5.31%. The next sheet is how we look so far this year in fiscal year 24 on sales tax. We've had 5 months so far. It's down a little bit. Scott and I were discussing this today, and Scott brought up a good point. This, I can't say it's all because of this, but it's probably related to the sales tax holiday that we had on groceries and so forth, and some school items. We are down. However, if you look at the 23-24 number compared to the 21-22, we're still up significantly. We're just down because last year was so large. So that's a quick overview of that. The next page, I get periodic questions about the ARP funds. This is just a quick summary. The ARP funds, they're actually gone because the ARP funds were voted by the council to pay for various payroll expenditures. That allowed the city to gain that same amount of funds of 6.5 million that y'all can use on what you choose to. So far, North Britton Street Drainage Project and flood pump related expenses have been used. Currently, the subtotal is about 3.5 million left, but we still lack a lot on the flood pump project. We don't know exactly how much it's going to take. It could take all of it. We just don't know for sure yet. But I just wanted y'all to have a breakdown on that. The final 16-page little packet here is just the normal financial statement I give you monthly. I would say we're rocking along pretty normal as far as collections. Our property tax collections are a little bit under last year, but they're not even due until the end of February, so we really won't know anything until then. All the departments look pretty good. General government looks like we're over, but we're not because we paid some really large expenditures for the entire year already. We're not paying them monthly. So, some of the numbers are a little skewed, but there's reasons for it. So unless y'all have specific questions about a fund, which I'll be glad to answer, this just summarizes all of it. But I would say we're still in the black. We're able to pay our bills. We're good. If we have any problems, I'll let you know.
Yeah, quickly.
We can make payroll. Yeah. No, we're in good shape, and but if you need to know any more specifics, always just reach out and I'll try to get you an answer.
Any questions for, okay?
I'd just like to say we're glad to have you back.
Thank
We
you.
are.
Thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate it.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure, please.
Okay, so that cable TV franchise tax, is that compliant with various entities like Spectrum, AT&T,
Okay.
et cetera?
Okay, let me get on that line here. The 31912 is specifically the Spectrum charter,
Mhm.
and we get that quarterly. It's about 40-something thousand. Now, if you come on over to the next page at the top, that's where the AT&T
Gotcha.
franchise fee is posted to.
Okay,
So it's separate.
Separate.
It's separate. Mhm.
thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Any other? All right, thank you so much, Ms. Parker. Okay, discussion items. We'll start with our Riverview District presentation. And I believe, I'm sorry, I missed our city recorder. Lisa, if you would talk to us about the airport items. Thank you.
Thank you. Your airport director, Paul Perry, could not be here tonight, so I wanted to go ahead and give you an update on what was talked about at the airport meeting, and will be on your agenda for a vote next Thursday. I didn't send them out with your study session because Ginger's got to review them. So if everything is good, they will be on your agenda next Thursday for a vote and in your packet when I send it out. The first one was an amendment to a lease that you approved last week, the Nashville Flight School lease. They have asked for a couple of items to be amended in their lease. One is to change the terms. They're not changing the total 5-year term. They're just breaking it down where they sign for a year and then they sign two renewals for 2 years each. And then the other one was to recognize that they're going to do some work on the room, and they were going to get some of that in consideration for the grant, which the airport had already approved, and it was in the lease that came to y'all last month, that part. They just wanted it to be noted more clearer in the amendment. And there was one more thing, and I can't remember what that one was. Do you remember what it was, Ginger, I talked about? What the third thing was?
You covered.
Hang on just a minute, I got it right here. Oh, it was that they would like to have first right of refusal once the remodeling is done to the upstairs, which is, a ways off, because that's where Paul keeps trying to get grants for that. And so that's way off in the future, but they'd like to have first right of refusal for office space up there once that gets done. So Ginger's looking over those, and then there was also a second lease that was given to Hawkins Flight School that is a brand new lease, and that will be on the agenda for y'all to look over and approve. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Otherwise, it'll all be sent out once Junior's had a chance to review it. I just wanted to give y'all a heads up on it.
Any questions? Have it written in on the agenda. So I missed it.
A little confused on the Hawkins Flight School.
The Hawkins Flight School is a new person who's come and asked for a, space on the airport, which they do that fixed base operations with several different places out there. They rent space to the operations they come in. So it's just a different flight school. They'll be doing they say they'll be complementary to what we already have out there, so they won't be competitive in all ways. I'm sure in some they probably will, but they say they'll be training on a different type of airplane. So the airport board listened to their presentation. Paul can probably explain it better the next Thursday night at the meeting, but they listened to their presentation, and they, agreed that it was a good opportunity.
Is there quite a bit more influx? Yeah, aircraft.
No. If they have one plane that they'll be training on, and maybe having another one at some point.
Thank you.
Good question. Anyone else have a question for Lisa? All right, now we'll move on to discussion items. And number one is the Riverview District presentation. And we'll ask Matt Taylor. Is that Matt? Come on forward, please. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to see you all again. I'm Matt Taylor, Studio 8 Design in Nashville. I'd like to introduce Lauren White and Davis Phillips from our office. They're going to help share this presentation with me and with you all tonight. For the last few months, we have worked closely with city staff and some of the local business owners along Spring Street to basically dream and come up with some brainstorm ideas of what we could do with the streetscape along Spring Street there, with 2 new exciting businesses getting ready to open in the near future, and the Riverwalk coming along, the end of Spring Street becomes a connector to the Riverwalk, and how we could liven that area up. The original comparison was to a printer's alley in Nashville. We've looked at that and talked really closely with everyone about what's Shelbyville's version of that. And with the tie to the river and the Riverwalk coming along, right now the Riverview name has stuck, but I think we're so early that may evolve over time as well. But what we'd like to do tonight is share with you some examples of other places where streetscape projects have happened in other cities, the kind of energy that they can create. We're looking at creating a place that is not only big for events, but also big for Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons with local business people, local tourists visiting Shelbyville, taking a lunch break on the square, want a place to get outside, and really a cross section of all different days, different times of day, and different events that might be able to take advantage of these improvements here. So we have, this is very broad brush. We've not gotten to the point of doing technical engineering or hard dimensional design for specifics as much as we've created a vision that we want to share with you all. We have come up with ideas of what if things could happen on property that the city doesn't own or doesn't own yet. That is not with any intent of taking anything away from anyone. That's just a big picture dream of what if these things happen to help generate some excitement and give everyone some opportunity around this area. So with that, I'm going to let Lauren kick us off and start the presentation, and then Davis will walk through the latter part of it. We'll be here for questions, and we look forward to sharing this with you.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Lauren.
Good evening. Thank you all for your time. We're thrilled to be here and tell you about the designs we've been working on. So for the first portion, I'll be going through the existing site, kind of the constraints that we see, and a little bit of the case studies that we've been looking at. So this first slide, you'll see we've really delved into, there are a lot of places that have focused on this kind of pedestrian mall, pedestrian friendly district. And so we've looked at a lot of those different areas and what makes them successful. And as Matt mentioned, what will make them successful on a Tuesday lunch break versus kinds of markets and things that this district could host. So you see we've got some fun elements in the bottom left corner, a trellis with swings, areas to activate the space, string lights, fun signage, things of that nature to really make this Shelbyville and make it unique and a fun place to visit. So in the next slide, we've got a few more. So we took inspiration from the Duck River and the history of Shelbyville, and you'll see some of those nods to the history and almost that kind of New Orleans-esque ironwork that we saw hints of in downtown Shelbyville already, building on that. As Matt mentioned, we've looked at Printer's Alley in downtown Nashville as kind of those fun, iconic signs. And in addition, a few of these images are from 2nd Avenue in Nashville, and they're looking at ways to make that area of town more pedestrian friendly. You can see in the right bottom portion, there's a outdoor seating area where the table kind of becomes a bar and you're viewing the street as if the activity is kind of the entertainment. You're a part of it, even when you're in the restaurant. So again, lots of trees, lots of fun landscaping, string lights and things of that nature. So looking at Shelbyville in particular in our site, you'll see we've pointed out 3 views that Davis will go over, but just to give you a feel for where those will come from and the vantage point that you'll be looking at our design. But coming from the square, that first kind of little circle that we're highlighting, we want to have this nice grandiose sign that's branding of the district. So it'll have Riverview and Shelbyville, Tennessee, and kind of draw in from the square and show people that this is a special part of downtown. And then that open seating, like we hinted at in the case studies, is there as well. So ways to engage with the businesses and the streetscape. The natural area, we could do water features, sculptural elements, things of that nature. This is the more kind of relaxed side of the district as we see right now. And just kind of livening up the streetscape, incorporating the businesses' designs with the signage and the lighting and things like that. And then as you move further south, come below that viewpoint too, you'll see there's a really nice area carved out for a market space. So it's kind of, you're past the buffer of the businesses and on either side. And you've got the open area looking out into the river. So this would be a really neat area to be able to host markets and have live music at that lower corner, and be able to have a stage pavilion that could be used in many different ways, even if there's not someone performing formally. So this is kind of the activities that we envision happening on the street. We'll go to the next slide. Here's kind of our site evaluation. So you can see there's 3 phases to the project. We've got the pedestrian streetscape area, the parking area, and the potential natural area like we talked about. And the yellow arrows are kind of showing where we would envision the most foot traffic, whether that's coming from the square or from the art center and parking area, or from the overlook that we've looked at and that we'll kind of envisioning the future of the river there. So that's kind of how we deciphered where would be good points of entry for this streetscape. And we want to be able to connect it all and it be cohesive to the overlook and future projects in downtown. And then the blue lines you can see along the street are the significant business frontages. And so we're working with businesses and their plans for renovation to make sure it's all cohesive and all working together. And then in the upper left corner is a proposed dumpster area. It's not really a great proportion to have more parking. So we figured getting that out of the way so that the pedestrians are happy and they're getting to see kind of more of the utility aspects. We also envision burying the power lines in an ideal world. It just helps kind of free up the street. And as well as if the natural area is acquired, getting those posts out of there would be really ideal to be able to create the atmosphere that we're looking for. And then the last thing to note on this slide is that we're going to create a channel in the center of the street to catch the rainwater so that it's being brought away from the businesses, and that way we have a new stormwater path implemented as we're doing all this other work. We move to the next slide. Here's our existing site conditions. So you can see in the upper left is the proposed service area that I mentioned in the last slide. So this is the idea that we don't want and things of that nature having to go through the street or having to close down the pedestrian nature of it. We will have bollards that can come up and down. Fire trucks and things of that nature need to get in, but for the day-to-day services of the businesses, it's ideal to get that away from the pretty inviting street. You also see below that there's an alley between the buildings that I believe might be used for kind of a fun little unique seating area for those businesses. And then a current view of Spring Street, and then potential loading area. And lastly, the Fly Arts parking lot expansion, just to be able to get some more spaces in there and have close parking to the district itself. And I'll hand it off to Davis to show you how all of those considerations and case studies have turned into this design that he will show you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Lauren. I'm Davis again. Hello, hello. So we'll just jump right into our exciting new plan. As you can see here, we've had a lot of fun rethinking this, made some small moves and some big moves that the civil guys probably won't like us much for. But the primary thing you'll notice is the the driver of the design is this north to south axis that the Spring Street Riverview District is gonna operate on. So it's really all about that experience and the journey of getting from the square down to the river and back. And so we've thought a lot about movement, a lot about how people are going to interact with areas throughout the street, how they're going to engage with businesses, and how to sort of bridge the gap between these businesses and the street. So it's really thought of as an entirely inclusive, open, happy community. Some major things to point out on here, though. Obviously, the street comes down and terminates at this big circular open pavilion, sort of like the anchor of the street. It's the destination of the Riverview District. You'll see, if you can faintly see the Shelbyville seal, big and open on the pavilion, and metal or some other painted material on there to make it stand apart, I think would be a very cool sense of place. And there's a couple little brown squiggles you'll see happening around there. You'll see those a little bit in our perspective views where Lauren showed a case study image of the swinging bench trellises. We want to incorporate some really fun interactive stuff like that for people. But ultimately, this open pavilion at the bottom is going to be just that, open for dancing or people to play, kids to run around, but also it could be used for a variety of things. It's your pop-up summer concerts for people to lay out in the park or on the lower end of the street and listen. It's where your big decorative Christmas tree is going in the holidays, your New Year's Eve ball drop. There's a lot of fun to be had using that pavilion as sort of the jewel of the district. To the bottom right, the parking area, it's obviously very conceptual. All we know is that we're going to provide the parking that this district needs to bring all of our fun new tourists in. And we're going to do it in a thoughtful way with lots of hardscape trellis features that run along the parking lot, vegetation, trees. So we've been thinking through that. We've also been in talks with some people affiliated with the Fly Art Center and how that would have to encroach some of the projects they've done that we want to thoughtfully reincorporate into our new natural area. And, we really want to enhance this parking area for the district, but also for them and make it all work mutually beneficially. But on our left side in the potential natural area, which we're hoping on with potential property acquisitions and whatnot, but you'll see we've got a couple possibilities shown of a fountain there. It could also be a sculpture. I know that there's lots of people in the city with lots of historical knowledge and sculptural pieces that would love to be involved. And I think that'd be a great community element to get, some local incorporation into this project. And these swoopy lines coming off of our pavilion are going to be sort of a stepped terrace down to the new Riverwalk for the slight grade change from the street down to the river. So it'll be just another fun feature for people to sit at, listen to music. It'll be nice and natural flowing with the river, but also, provide a thoughtful piece of what would otherwise be just a natural green area. And then of course our lovely new river overlook, which will tie right into there. And I think it'll be just an absolute beautiful setting to have everything tied together there. If this can all come into fruition, it would be a great destination. People coming off the highway, seeing all the excitement happening there would be just awesome for the town. So moving on from that into some closer up views on the left side first, so the north part of the street. We've been thinking through where people are going to be sitting and moving about and how people are going to be entering these business frontages. Obviously, again, all very conceptual, but we think it'd be a fun way to break down the scale of the street by using a change in the material of the pavers to signify you're going into this way or that way to get to something new and exciting, or it designates where you go to find seating. That seating, like Lauren showed, can be something concrete and a part of the street. So it's not just loose table and chairs up, but something with some thought behind it that can create a really nice setting for people to sit and drink at and, people watch. But ultimately, we want to keep the middle of the street open, like Lauren touched on. We'll have removable bollards that would ideally only come down for emergencies, fire and whatnot. We really want to keep all of the service trucks and whatnot circulating around it, which we've been in talks about, and we're going to keep working with the businesses, how it best flows with, their day-to-day activities. But we really just want to have this fun journey, like I said, where every time that you continue moving south down towards the open pavilion, you're finding something new to catch your eye and something new to go in and out of. And on the right side, on the south end of the district, that's where you see a more close-up view of that pavilion and the seal. You can see in a little bit more detail the trellis features we want to have around. And while they are fun and act as a place for people to sit and swing, they also sort of define the edges of this space. And on the ones at the northern end of the right image, they sort of bridge the gap between the street and the natural area. And on the right side, we have sort of just an open market shown. I think it'd be a great spot for farmers market, pop-up shops, or if it's a busy day, just more loose tables for people to throw out, for people to sit at. Or if there's a concert going on, it's a good place to set up some more chairs for that too. And I think we can move on to some 3D views. So this is from the square looking south. And the first thing that jumps out at you obviously is our large, beautiful spanning sign over the two frontages there. So Riverview District, Shelbyville, Tennessee, with the beautiful wrought iron feel that is sprinkled about all over the city. We think that's going to be our Instagram sign. People come to take pictures under that bad boy. But it really just defines the place, and it lets you know that you've entered an entirely new part of the city and you've got this experience ahead of you where you go all the way down into the back, if you can barely see, our final point, horse-shaped trellis, and that's where you'll see your 30-foot Rockefeller Christmas tree down there. That's really just gonna bring people off the city and down there. We've had a lot of fun with this, with our friends at Grindstone and Grindstone Cowboys, and Glass Carlo, and sort of what their vision is for their businesses, whether it's fun blade signs like Printer's Alley or a mural of the beautiful Jim Key. We've been going back and forth with them, and it's exciting for us that they're so excited about this project too. But what we really want to do in these 3D images is just show that we expect this street to be full of people, full of warmth, with lighting, and full of exciting things to look at every which way you look, whether it's, the signs of Printer's Alley or something on the street, a cool bar, a cool inlet to pop into a patio of a restaurant or whatnot. There's a lot of opportunity to be had, and we're excited to dig in. Go to the next slide. Something worth mentioning is, even though we're showing sort of sidewalks on the side with brick pavers in the middle, we anticipate the whole street being flat and ADA accessible for wheelchairs, any sort of handicap, besides sloping it inward slightly to catch that storm water like Lauren was talking about. That's an important thing, is getting all of that water off of our more active areas on the businesses and carrying that down to the river. So the change in material on the street is really just to sort of signify when you're really on the main avenue versus in a zone where you're weaving in and out of businesses and looking for fun things to do. So this is just, another view if you're kind of at the midpoint of the street looking back towards the square, where it really just shows you, even from this angle, you still have that big spanning sign that creates another gateway into the square. So if you're coming up from the parking area, it works just the same, guiding you in, through, and out to another exciting space. So just full of life, full of light and really exciting things to look at. And then our third and final view here is if you're coming off of the parking area, sort of on the McGrew Street. This is looking at the end pavilion here, open pavilion. On this corner, we have a wall sign that's still very decorative and light and wrought iron, but it's not as formal. This is the entrance. It's more of that you're still in this place, and it guides you around the turn to open up the entire Riverview district to you. But this gives a fun view of more of those swinging trellises, and on the far left of the image, where I mentioned we'll have some sort of hardscape feature to border the parking lot so that when you're even just coming into this area, you're not looking at a bunch of cars. You're looking at something thoughtfully designed that all funnels down into this moment happening at the end. And so I've just got some people dancing here, but you know, you could really use your imagination for anything. And like always, you've got string lights everywhere, and even off in the distance, so I think it'd be great to have lights happening throughout the park. I think anywhere is lit up, that means there's going to be people, which means safety, which is also a big priority in this area. It's just making it clean and inviting and a good space for families at any time of day. And then eventually beyond that, you can get a little glimpse of the power building on the dam, but that'll lead right over the park into the new Riverwalk, which is going to be another exciting element that ties everything all together. So I think that wraps up our spiel, and we're really excited about this. Everybody on this project is really excited about this, and we are excited to hear what you guys think. Okay. So thank you all, and open for anything you have to say.
Thank you, David.
I'll bring the rest of the crew back.
Any questions for either of the speakers?
That's it. The floor is all yours now. We've shared all the ideas we've all talked about over the last few months, and in developing at least a high level dream for what could happen. And really, if it meets with you all's approval, then we can take a next step towards making this a little bit more real.
Looks really good, and we've got owners of the properties with us tonight, so we appreciate y'all working with this group, and it really looks good. Any comments from the council at all? Any questions?
Are the owners okay with everything going on? I mean, everybody's in agreement with everyone happy? Happy?
Good.
But they have been part of the project team and helping to share some of the inspiration images
Good.
and review the options with us along the way. It's really critical that this isn't just a street that happens ignoring what's going on either side. And so we've worked really closely together to make sure that anything we do and talk about supports their investment and their
Very good.
business,
Very
and what they're doing with their business.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Mayor, I'd just like to comment, that Studio 8 has been exceptional throughout this process. I mean, they went above and beyond the scope of the initial services. But just as importantly, Bedco Investments, Glass Hollow Table and Tavern, and also Grindstone Capital have been in numerous meetings. We've had Public Works involved. We've had Shelbyville Power involved in utilities. We've had the fire department involved to make sure fire trucks can get through. I mean, it's been such an exceptional team effort. And it's been a fantastic project to get to this point, and I just appreciate everybody that's helped so much.
Thank you,
And we
Scott.
hadn't even had to pay them yet.
Well spoken. Thank you, folks, for coming tonight in your presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you all.
I noticed that the other day. I don't know if we have
All right, the second item on our discussion items is amendment to the Violent Crime Intervention Fund Grant. And we'll ask our police chief Chief Phillips, how are you?
Hi, good evening.
Good.
As you may recall, we were awarded the Violent Crime Intervention Grant last year, last year starting in September. The grant was to hire 3 additional officers. The officers would be to be employed during this current fiscal year. We've held several hiring events, but unfortunately have not been able to increase our roster from the 49, which we were sworn to the pre-grant, to the 52 in the post-grant. We are at 50 at the present time, so we still like 2 officers to fulfill the grant. This being the case, we've applied for an amendment to the original grant in hopes of getting the most out of our funds awarded. Last year, our department retired one of our canines. The department's requesting the council to approve an amendment to the grant, to our original grant, to allow the purchase of a dual-purpose canine handler, training course, dog kennel, and associated canine equipment. With council approval, the department will move forward with these purchases once the amendment is accepted, the new grant contract is executed, and the council approves the expenditure. The problem is, if we don't spend this money in the first fiscal year, we lose the money. So that's why we're trying to do this and then get our 2 people hired. So this amendment also enables the department to purchase that new dual-purpose canine and without an impact on our budget or drug fund. We're still actively recruiting and hoping to fill the 2 positions remaining. So we've talked with the state and the grant, and we just need a resolution from the city saying that they're.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the chief?
How much does a dual purpose dog cost?
It's going to run the dog kennel and the training for the officer is going to be around $17,000 to $19,000. But we haven't spent any money on our salaries from September 1 through December for the officers that was supposed to hire. We have to spend that money or lose it.
So as one of the officers, you're looking to hire 2 more. Will that be the partner for the dog?
No,
or is that,
not necessarily.
or is there a new partner coming in?
There'll be one in the department that'll be trained.
There will be one in the department.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief. Okay, number 3 is creating a new city department for the cemetery, and I'll ask Scott to take that, please.
Thank you, Mayor. On your iPad, you have the memo dated December 19th, 2023 from Public Works Director. And it is our recommendation that council considers authorizing us to split the cemetery out as a separate department once again. And we'd like to move that forward to the council meeting, so for approval.
Any questions for Scott on that? Ben's here tonight, so good to see you. All right, if we don't have any questions, we'll move to the next item. Number 4 is the North Britton Street Drainage Project. There's a change order in it, and our city engineer, Will Owen, is with us tonight. Is he? Yeah, hi, Will.
Uh-oh.
I was here when you got it. I don't know where that came from. No, if you'll recall, I was here at your January study session. We had an update on construction of the North Britton Drainage Project and indicated to you at that time that we anticipated bringing a formal change order to you for this study session. So that's what's before you tonight. The only real difference is in talking with Buck and Scott after the January 2nd kind of download with you guys, we decided that in an effort to simplify everyone's lives, it may be best to go ahead and ask for what we project to be the total amount of additional funding for the remainder of the work and not just what we've uncovered already. So that's what's before you tonight. The hope is that we will not have to be before you again asking for additional money, that we've projected what we believe to be the total funding that would be required even after we uncover everything that's remaining to be uncovered. A couple of quick updates that are different from when I spoke to you in January. There was some anticipation that corner building there would be a desire for the owner to demolish that corner building. They have come back to the city and the contractor and has indicated they are not at this point planning to demolish that building. So that has created some challenges from a standpoint of demolition and installation of the drainage structure. Those are represented in the numbers. And then the other thing, the contractor informed us last week that they have partnered with a sister company to bring in more resources, both labor and equipment. And that should be mobilized in the next week or two. And the anticipation is that they will have additional resources, again, both labor and equipment, to proceed on the project to the point where they're intending to open up the remainder of the footage of the structure that needs to be replaced within probably 2 weeks. So there will be a flurry, anticipate there being a flurry of activity, starts and then steadily progresses on through the end of the project. So with that, if there's any questions on any of that, I'd be glad to answer them. Otherwise, that's where we're at.
I got a question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
This all was going before I got here, so I get to ask the dumb questions. This thing originally was bid in the neighborhood of $750,000.
That's correct.
Why are we doing this? What's the purpose?
Why are we doing the project at all?
Why is this project even going on?
Okay, so Buck, help me with the timeline here. I think about 2 to 2.5 years ago, the structure that is under the portion of the structure that's under Britton Street collapsed. Like it fully collapsed and Britton Street had to be closed down. So in the course of investigating that failure of that old structure, it was recognized that the remainder from where it collapsed to where it ties into the flume area, it was in similar condition to the failed portion. So at that point, the city decided that they wanted to pursue the replacement of that entire structure as a result of its age and condition.
Right. So where do you think we're gonna be? We're roughly said, we started out $750,000. Where do you think we're gonna be when this is all over said and done?
So the intent, the expectation is that after this change order, we will be 916,150 is the number, and that's what we've targeted to be the final number in that ballpark.
So we're $250,000 over, basically.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It should be also along those lines. It might help to know, even with the change orders based on the conditions discovered once the excavation took place, even that 916 is still, I believe the second lowest bid that was received was 1.2.
Yeah.
And some 1.2 million was the second lowest bidder. So we're still under that second lowest bid that was received. So.
The building we're talking about is at the near screen building where they're gonna have they didn't think maybe they all would help us pay for some of this. That ain't your job.
That's not, I'd be glad to talk with and we have, we met with some representatives from Near Screen and trying to better understand what their vision was for that property and incorporate some of the design of the drainage structure in such a manner that would be, as best we can, accommodating for when they do develop that lot so that they don't have to go in and tear up our new structure for sure, and that it would be advantageous for them to tie into it when they do have their drainage infrastructure. So that coordination effort has occurred, and everyone was hopeful that the decision would be made to take the front buildings down. My personal opinion is when they get a little further along in design of their site, that they're probably going to end up taking those buildings down. There's not a lot there to salvage. And what is there to salvage would be based on what I understand their vision to be for those front buildings, would be significantly costly. So, but that's their decision. It's
Okay.
private property.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions for Will? We good? Go ahead.
When was this project originally started, awarded?
The award was,
According to the change order, it should have been substantially complete in first part of December.
that's correct.
Originally.
Yeah.
So this is only, it's almost 7 months now is a projected completion beyond that first part of December to the first part of June.
Correct.
And as I said before, and complained before, there's nobody working on the job.
They have had periods of limited productivity. That's correct.
And so, you know, it's a tough pill to swallow. When you don't see them making progress, then all of a sudden we're coming back and making excuses about what the difference, this kind of number ought to be added to our 740,000, and we haven't even gotten, my estimation, a fourth of the project started and done.
Right.
Is, you know, one of the biggest things I'm looking at, on here was a Class A concrete slab bridge, junction box, and head wall. What, $45,000, and then the excavation work of $67,000. How is that much money? That's the biggest chunk of this. How is that big of a design change? Where was, I mean, we didn't already have a junction box and head wall designed in this thing, or what?
So that additional concrete is a result of going from the 3-sided structure to the 4-sided structure. So what was seen in the original, or in the first section that's already been completed, it was a 3-sided structure. So it had strip footers, and then the walls, and then the topping on it. And then based on what was discovered of the poor material of the subgrade, we made the decision to transition to 4-sided because it was going to be cheaper to continue with a 4-sided structure than to over excavate another 4 feet of additional subgrade to get that bad material out so we could build on it.
So you're saying there was never a floor designed in the bottom of this?
No, what we had discovered initially in that failed area was that the floor was bedrock. So the anticipation was that the remainder of that channel would have been bedrock. So when we got in there and started excavating, and we did some exploratory geotechnical work, it was discovered that that was not the case, that it's a bunch of muck and sediment and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily want to build a structure on, especially under a road.
Like you.
Very good questions, very good questions. Any other questions for Mr. Owen? Thank you, Will, so much. All right, the next item is traffic signal, number 5, traffic signal at South Cannon relocation, and Scott will ask you to tell us about that.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the traffic signal at the intersection coming out of the planning and building and codes offices. And our Public Works Director has been working with the electrical engineer with Shelbyville Power, and they can relocate it to make it more traffic friendly and more safe for a cost not to exceed $10,000.
What are we gonna do with it?
So,
What's the plan?
sorry.
Have a plan?
Yes.
What's the plan? What are they? Let's Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mr. Ballard.
How we doing?
Good.
Right now, if you are coming from, Lane Parkway and you come down to that light, in order to ease up to be able to get in here, by the time you do that, you're underneath the light and you can't see if it's red. So what we're doing is gonna move it across the street like typical lights are throughout the city. Move it across the street. What that's gonna be able to do is allow more traffic to fit in there. I don't know if you guys notice from time to time, Lane Parkway, traffic will be backed up on this street through that. So we're trying to create a little bit more room and make it safer for somebody trying to turn in here to be able to see the light to make sure it's still green so they can go. I don't know if any of you have ran into that, but I've ran into that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
The traffic in Southside backs up Plum Pass all the way down to the little quick mark on the right in the morning.
Yeah.
Both lanes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackson, West Jackson is not the perfect spot if you were designing traffic signals in between there, is not in the perfect spot.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any other questions? All right, number 6, the TNECD Small Business Grant, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a grant opportunity through Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. It would be administered by Retail Strategies, who we are currently partnering with on retail development. But the purpose of this grant is to help small businesses. And it is a $50,000 grant award with a 10% or $5,000 match for the city. And they would train our small businesses in 4 different quarters in modules. For example, it would help to get an online presence and advertisement for our small businesses, to help them with point of sales, security, AI, and other type programs to enhance their business. It would also provide a property owner toolkit that would be open to all property owners as well as small business owners. And then one of the ones I'm most excited about, it would train them up, getting them ready for the holidays to make a big seasonal push during the Christmas and New Year holiday.
Okay, so certain criteria, who's eligible as far as small businesses? Is this just totally open? How does this work?
It is totally open now. Now, the businesses will have the option to contract outside of the criteria that I just mentioned. But the 4 criteria I mentioned would be open to any and all small businesses within the city of Shelby.
Be kind of like the facade grant that we had, they'll just make an application and go from there, each one will.
Yes, sir.
Have you had a lot of interest in these small business owners maybe coming to the city and saying, you know, I really could do better if I only had such and such done to my place, or I could advertise more and that type of thing? Is this really, really necessary?
Well, we just felt it would be an opportunity to have something to offer our small businesses. But no, ma'am, we have not reached out to them yet because we wanted to see what the will of the city council was.
And so there will be ample advertising for this, that it's out there upon its approval.
Yes, ma'am. If this city council approves the application, and if awarded, we will do it like we did the downtown improvement grant, which South Central Tennessee Development District said they've never seen a response as strong as the one Shelbyville business community had.
Always nice to get those grants. It'll help small businesses. Okay, the next item, any other questions for Scott on that? All right, next item, Scott, keep your breath there. City County Local Option Sales Tax Agreement Termination. Scott?
Thank you, sir. A letter was sent several weeks ago to the representatives, legal representatives of the county, which we've not received any type of response whatsoever. So we will be requesting authorization to move to the next level in an effort to get both parties talking about how to resolve this issue.
Any questions for our city manager on that? All right, let's move to old business on our agenda and ordinances. Second and final reading and public hearing on That's number 8 on your agenda. An ordinance to establish an updated occupational safety and health program plan, devise rules and regulations, and to provide for a safety director and the implementation of such a program plan. Any questions on that? Okay.
Lisa,
Any
did you have
discussion?
something to say on
I
that?
just turned my microphone on in case you had any questions. This is for a public hearing and a second reading, but it's just something that we're required to have on file, and the only reason that we're changing it now is to change the mayor.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Councilmember Gannon. Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, number 9, resolutions, second and final reading and public hearing. A resolution adopting a plan of services for an area proposed for annexation. The territory is a 124-acre tract of land located on the south side of Union Street, west of Jennings Lane, and referenced on Bedford County Tax Map 079, parcel 047, to be annexed by owner consent and to be incorporated within the boundaries of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, and owned by Franklin Swing and Rebecca Dawn Swing Bobo. This item received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. Waleed, if you'd step forward just in case we have any questions. Anyone have any questions on that? Discussion? Okay, we're good? All right. All right. We'll move to the next one. Thank you, Waleed. We just want to see if you're on, we just want to see if you're on your toes, Waleed.
Yes, sir, buddy. He had that corner fired up.
Number 10, a resolution to annex a portion of certain territory upon the consent of the owners to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee. This property is a 124-acre tract of land located on the south side of Union Street, west of Jennings Lane, and referenced as Bedford County Tax Map 079, parcel 047, and owned by Franklin Swing and Rebecca Dawn Swing Bobo. This item received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. Waleed, I won't make you get up. You have any questions for Waleed?
Yes, Wally, get up.
Marilyn, don't get him started.
One comment just for the audience here. I see some faces here. So
Yeah.
whoever is here attending for the annexation, it does not include the planned unit vote. This is very different. Just, I know there have been a lot of phone calls, but this most likely will come back end of March or maybe May. I'm not sure.
So as it's annexed, it comes in as R1.
Yes.
But this letter clearly states that, rezoned under a HUD coming up. I mean, definitely coming up, or is that based on the traffic study? Is that come?
Which letter are we talking about?
Dated November 17th.
In other words, on traffic study.
It's based on the traffic study.
However, when it went to the planning commission decided that more needs to be done about the planned unit development, includes the traffic study, but not just the traffic study.
Okay. So just a what if? What if it's annexed in, it's R1, and what if it doesn't carry to be a PUD? Is the owner willing to go forward if it's not carried on to become a PUD? Or?
This is the thing
Do we know?
here. I don't know for sure. I know they have all the calculation based on what you have seen, which is about 715 units. Initially, when they came in, it was about 900 units. Of course, if it's not approved as a part, he will, it's the owner is a he will have options. He might want to apply for zoning to R2, which is basically higher than R1. He might want to apply for medium density. He would have options. So whether he will take the options or not, it's up to him.
Good question. Anyone else have a question on that? All right, thank you, Wally. All right, new business ordinances, first reading. Number 11, an ordinance of the Shelbyville City Council to amend Article 2.2 related to the definition section and Article 6.4S regarding supplemental regulations for certain uses in the city of Shelbyville's zoning ordinance and repealing any ordinance or part of an ordinance in conflict herewith. This item received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. Any questions for Waleed on that?
I can explain what we are trying to achieve
Okay.
as well, Mayor. So, I'm just waiting for the slide. I might as well just start. Yeah, we have it here. So a quick discussion of what's going on. So whenever you open any zoning ordinance, be it the city of Shelbyville or any other city, there are different sections that you usually see. And I have them here. So there will be a definition section, there will be general provision, there will be the zoning districts, and there will be what we call supplementary regulations. This is if you open any zoning ordinance. What's going on, and it's not a secret, our zoning ordinance is not new, and any zoning document is a living document. It's not static. So what happened is when there's change in technology, change in state law, changes for attracting new businesses, you can look at it and decide based on the existing legislation and what's going on elsewhere that, hey, we might want to look at what's going on here and it would be beneficial to make some changes. So lately, we came across some definitions we have, and I have them on the left-hand side. It turns out that because our zoning ordinance is not new, it has, I would say, some outdated definitions. Because it is outdated, what happens is you will tend to be overprotective. What this means that you will lump together uses that are really different under the same umbrella because you don't have exact definitions. To be more specific, we have some regulation that says, well, it equates the production of just simple bullets as the production of explosives. So if you need to produce the bullets, which nowadays, based on the new technology, are very safe, you need to have a minimum of 50 acres. Of course, this is not going to happen in this town. Nowadays, you can do it in any small garage. You can actually manufacture it. I don't know if you guys have seen the new machinery. It's all automated and it's very safe. So we have some opportunities of some folks reaching out to us saying, hey, do you have any location in town where I can produce bullets, for example? And we have seen what they do, and it turned out to be very safe. And in other municipalities that we looked at, they actually do it in commercial areas too. You have to meet the building code and the fire code, of course. So what we did, we had an internal discussion between all departments, including building, fire, and we landed in new definitions. And you see here on the left-hand side, the main intent is to separate what is light industrial and what is heavy industrial. If you look at the one underlined, you will see that for light industrial, you will see that something like, bullets would be considered light industrial, which means if you look at, I have the printout for you here, guys. What we do once in any application, we look at what use it is, which will be on the left-hand side. And in order to consider it to be permitted, it has to be permitted under the column for the zone. So we're not making any changes to the land use table. We are just changing the definition for light and heavy industrial to make it more permissive. Along the same line, if you look at the right-hand side of the column here, we are clarifying the language for supplementary regulation to exclude anything that is not explosive and consider not to have negative impact from actually having to follow the supplementary regulation, which are very, very strict. That's in a nutshell what we are trying to achieve. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at the package. If you did and anything is unclear, please let me know. I'll be happy to discuss.
Scott, you have anything to say to that?
Yes, sir. I'd just like to suggest that this has been done through the planning, building codes, fire safety, police department, city attorney. I mean, there's been a lot of work go into this to ensure the safety of our citizens, as well as give opportunities for some prospective businesses.
Again, we're not going very extreme. It's only light industrial. We're not touching commercial. So, and any application must meet the requirement of the fire and building codes.
And the reason that we kind of are looking at this because we had someone contact us that been thinking about maybe coming to Shelbyville. Is that correct?
I would say this is how it started. However, we are not targeting anyone. It will be for if whether it will materialize or not, that's something we hope it will. But if it doesn't, we'll have it just in the zoning ordinance for everybody.
If I may say, Mayor, once we brought it to my attention and looked at it, I was like, oh no, we're not adequate in that at all.
Yeah.
We can't have
Right.
ammunition manufacturing equated to a bomb. It was just like,
That's
it's
just-
just not, it's not good law. Let's put it that way. It's not good zoning law.
Any other questions for Waleed on that?
We may have us one of those project purple jobs going. Top secret,
You're welcome. Yeah.
top secret, none of you can go out of this room.
All right, number 12 is an ordinance of this, the Shelbyville City Council to amend Article 5.4.1 related to the low-density residential districts in the city of Shelbyville's zoning ordinance and repealing any ordinance or part of an ordinance in conflict herewith. This item received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. Waleed?
So Mayor, this is just, I would say, describe it as cleaning our zoning ordinance and making it easier to understand. Recently, you know, there have been a lot of public meetings where a lot of people showed up, and I could tell it was confusing for a lot of people, including our planning commissioners, because in our zoning ordinance, as we speak, we have two different zones. One is R1, one is R2. The legal reference to it is the same, which is low density. So I had a discussion after that with some of the planning commissioners. And they said, you know what, can we do anything quick that will not really change the zoning ordinance, but it will make it easier for us in meeting to differentiate between the two. So the quick fix was to look at the zoning ordinance. If you look at it here, you will see what I'm talking about. The two are labeled or referred to as low density. And you see what the difference is. The R1 is bigger than the R2. So the quick fix was, well, we're not going to touch the existing regulation, meaning the dimensions and the differences, because if we do, the existing lots will be considered non-conforming. So the easier fix, just to avoid the confusion during meeting, would be to label the one that is R2, the bigger one, as low density, and the other one that is R2, which is smaller, as low-medium. Because in reality, it's in between the medium density and the low density. But this will not include making any changes to the actual regulations. When it went to the planning commission, I believe it was approved unanimously. Am I correct? Yeah. Thank you. And it will be very quick. So, and hopefully when we start using different language to refer to the two, people will be on board and will understand what we're talking about.
Will that have any impact on your comprehensive plan?
It will have some impact, but we can make the changes too later on, because the comprehensive plan uses the same language, which is low density, and it is R1 and R2.
Right.
So we'll have to make some
You don't need to
tweaks.
get a conflict between the two if you change what this name is.
The plan is to make a quick change after that, the comprehensive plan as well. Yeah, but start with the zoning, because we actually deal more with the zoning for most of the applications.
So we do need to change it.
Exactly.
Thank you, Waleed. Anyone have a question for Mr. Al-Bakri? All right, thank you, Waleed.
Thanks.
All right, the next item, resolutions, we have none. Business items, we have none. Purchasing and bid items. Number 13, request for proposals. And we'll ask Ms. Sadler, Lori, come forward. Pasture lease north of runway at the Shelbyville Municipal Airport. Tell us about that, please.
All right, the bid committee met last Tuesday and we opened these pasture leases. This particular one, north of the runway, there were two proposals that were received. Bill Callaway, $2,900 annually, Sam Davis, $3,200 annually. Staff recommends awarding to the highest offer from Mr. Davis. And this is, again, it's a annual revenue of $3,200 and over the course of the 4-year agreement, $12,800.
All right. Number 14 then, pasture and land lease south and east of runway at Shelbyville Municipal Airport. We're not wasting our property out there. We're sending, the farmers are using that for pasture and things like that, and they have to bid on. So that's what we're talking about. Lloyd, please.
This one is for part of its pasture, part of its land lease, and there was one bidder, Mr. Sam Davis, $5,000 annually, and over the course of 4 years, that would be $20,000 worth of revenue, if approved.
Any questions for Lori on those two items? All right, number 15 is an HVAC unit replacement for our senior citizen center.
Yes,
Lori?
sir. The bid committee met yesterday. This was an RFP that you all approved at your January meeting. Two bidders, Jones Heating and Cooling of Shelbyville, $20,964. Reds Heating and Air Conditioning of Shelbyville, $20,500. You just received these staff summaries today, so I'll talk just a little bit more about this one. The Jones proposal included ductwork cleaning, and the Reds did not include ductwork cleaning. Don't say that so fast. And their quote, it was also noted on the bottom of their quote that it was only good until February 1st because of supplier price changes. So I can't get that approved. We couldn't even get this before you to vote on it by the 1st. So because the ductwork cleaning that Jones offered, those members of the bid committee that were present recommended that we go with Jones. I will tell those that were present that the questions we had to ask of Jones, the compressor did have a 5-year commercial warranty, and whatever other, I don't remember now, the other question, everything was fine with their bid, so.
Any question for Lori on that? They got a unit bad out there, so we've got to replace it. All right.
I
16.
didn't
Go ahead.
say this part at the
Okay.
bottom, the economic impact.
Yes.
Of course, I told you with the expense. This was not in the 2024 budget, but our city treasurer said that it would be included in future budget amendment if you all approved it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the next item is the Tennessee statewide contract purchase, number 16, 2 police pursuit vehicles. Lori?
This will wrap up the vehicles that the police had in their budget for this year, which is phenomenal because last year we had to roll all the money over pretty much. We didn't receive our cars for several months, but the dealership called. They had 2 more available, come available. So this completes their capital purchase for new vehicles for fiscal year 24. 2 Ford Police Interceptors off of Tennessee statewide contract for both vehicles, $98,038. And their budget for 6 total that this will complete was $375,575.
Any questions for Ms. Sadler on that?
So these were already budgeted, these are already taken care of.
Okay, they're already budgeted and we just couldn't get the other 2. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that correct, Chief?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on that? All right, option to renew, number 17, fireworks display.
All right.
4th of July, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I had, on my desk last week, I had salt invoices and this. It's just like, it's interesting, what some days bring. But anyway, 3 years ago, in 2021, we awarded our fireworks display to Pyro Shows of La Follette, Tennessee. It had 2 annual options for renewal attached to that bid. The bid was $15,000 for the show that we share with the county every 4th of July. This is the first price increase that we've had in these 3 years. They're asking for a 5% increase for a total of $15,750. Our portion of that will be $7,875, and we were kind of anticipating this with a budget of $8,000.
Okay.
And this will have to go back to the bid table in the fall for the next 3 years.
Okay. Any questions on that? The county does share that 50/50. All right. Thank you, Ms. Allen. All right. Appointments, number 18 for the Safe and Affordable Housing Committee. And we've had 2 appointments. We've been looking for candidates for that. And Ms. Smith, our city recorder, had put out some information and letters and emails asking for that. And we do have one lady who is probably going to be one of a renter on that, and the other one will be a member of the Bedford County Listing Project. So we have one that we will appoint. Mrs. Porterfield, I believe is her name. Okay. Other business? Do we have any? Okay. Announcements? I'm sorry. Did you have something to say?
No, we have to wait till next month.
Mr.